I'm speaking to myself because sometimes I still do that. Hey dancers, it's Kirsten. Welcome back to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to talk about the fear of failure that so many of us feel. And I want to share some encouraging insights with you that have definitely helped me to work through this in moments where I either am so afraid that I'm about to fail or I feel like I did and I'm trying to recover from that. I want to give you some encouragement and I hope it really touches you. Let me know what you think in the comments as always. And let's move on with the video. The first thing I want to share is that failure is really a label. It's all in the way you frame it, right? So sometimes we just label an event as failure without really thinking or asking ourselves, could this actually be something I need? Could this actually be something that's a sign of courage, that I was willing to go for something and face not getting it? Could this actually be something that's teaching me exactly what I need to learn in order to move forward? Could this be growing and maturing me in a way that will create a beautiful future for me? Could this be happening for me? Failure really just is a label. I want to invite you to be flexible with how you define failure. I love the quote, "There is no such thing as failure, only feedback." It really is just in the way you frame it that dictates how you feel about your results. And yeah, I'm not saying that just because you reframe it, you're going to feel great about what happens if you don't get the results you want. I'm not going to promise that. You'll probably be sad or upset or disappointed, and that's totally normal, by the way. But you still get to ask yourself, is there something in this for me? And can I hold on to that and take that lesson away from this event rather than using it as a label that creates shame, like I failed, I am a failure. It's just so important to not only hold on to that quote, there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. It's also really, I think, great to hold on to the other quote that I, again, love so much, is you either win or you learn. There is no losing. And these two mentalities, like these quotes are really mentalities that become a self-fulfilling prophecy because you don't see it as just a failure, that's just a net negative thing in your life. You do make it work for you, which then creates fruit in your life later because of this disappointing or painful thing that you went through. The second thing I want to say is failure. I'm just using that word. I don't like to use that word in my life. I just say, I didn't get the result I want, or I don't want this to happen. I just kind of frame it more as that way, or yeah, I just didn't achieve what I wanted. I missed my own mark. That's kind of how I see it rather than like, it is a failure. Like Bible truth, it's a failure. Anyone would objectively see it that way. It's just, okay, I missed my own mark, but maybe I needed to learn something from this. Anyway, that's why I'm using that word. A lot of people relate to it. I don't see these things as failure, or I don't love using that word. But anyway, the other thing I want you to know is that failure is inevitable. If you are living life as a human, failure is absolutely inevitable. Because think of it this way, and I have to catch myself on this so often, you guys. You can try to live your life to avoid failure, which will then look like not taking action, staying stuck, not growing, and getting so dissatisfied with yourself. It feels gross, right? To not grow or take action. Like it might feel comfortable in the beginning, but it ends up becoming uncomfortable, right? So you either take that path and then feel like a failure anyway because you didn't do anything. I'm speaking to myself because sometimes I still do that. Or you actually take action and you put yourself on the line and take a risk and actually try to achieve the success that you're looking for in the way that you define it. And you actually give yourself a chance to win. And then even if you don't win in the way you want and you think you failed, you still have all these things that you learned from the action you took, which is going to be way more valuable in getting you to that success eventually than if you did nothing in order to try to avoid the failure. So when we start to see failure as inevitable, you can either take the path of trying to avoid it and then inevitably failing anyway, or you can take the action and try to move forward and actually give yourself the chance at success or learning what you need in order to get the success next time. That's a mindset, at least for me, that's very relieving. And that leads me into my next point, which is that I want to invite you to see if you really are taking that second path, like taking action and taking the risk of failing to give yourself the chance for success. If you're taking that path, I want to invite you to see it as an act of courage, that even if you do fail, you were courageous enough to face that and try. That takes courage. That actually doesn't mean anything bad about you. It just means you didn't get the result you wanted yet, but you were courageous enough to face that possibility. That takes way more courage than sitting and avoiding and not doing the thing. Please, please, please keep that in mind. Reframe your fear as an invitation to courage. That's something that really, really encourages me. Be encouraged that you get to reframe your fear of failure, but moving forward anyway, as like, look, I am being courageous by facing it. Here's another thing I want you to know. If you let your fear of failure dissuade you from going for what you really want, the fear won. The fear is controlling you. You're letting the fear have power over you in your life. Again, I'm preaching to myself because I still do this sometimes. And I think it's just such a great invitation. Like, everything is an invitation, right? Especially discomfort. There's so much beautiful opportunity in discomfort. You can see facing your fear of failure as, like, at the very least, even if I don't get the result I want, I showed to myself that I'm not going to let my fear have power over my life. And I'm not going to let my fear be in the driver's seat of my life. I'm going to be in the driver's seat of my life. I'm going to bet on myself and give myself a chance to experience the life I want instead of letting the fear determine the life I get. The next point that I absolutely love, I heard it on a podcast somewhere. I don't remember where. I wish I could to give credit, but someone was saying that people see failure and success as two different roads. But what's true is that failure and success are actually one road. They are the same. And why is that? Because in order to achieve the successes we want, we have to face a series of failures that teach us the lessons we wouldn't have learned otherwise, that then those lessons help us to get the successes we want. And then even after we achieve success, I know that a big temptation for me is to just kind of chill out. Oh, I got what I want now. Like, I don't have to face the discomfort of failure again. But then guess what? Being stagnant creates so much discomfort that then that discomfort drives me forward again. And I'm working on not relying on that pattern in my life to really take action, but rather being motivated and driven by, the kind of life I really do want to live. I'm on this journey with you guys. Anyway, so I think it's really, really helpful to see failure and success as one road that are just repeating patterns that are all a part of your personal evolution, rather than seeing them as two different roads. Because I think if we see them as two different roads, we might achieve success and then we think failure should never happen to us because, look, we're on the road to success. And then we get blindsided by the human experience, which is a mixed bag. Or we feel like we're on the road to failure and we can get really stagnant waiting for the perfect path that will save us from all this pain, that will provide a guarantee of never failing again. And you guys, again, being vulnerable here, I found myself on that side of things, especially being totally transparent. Like, I've had to do some inner work around just my comfort zone after I feel like I failed in ballet. I really had to overcome that because, I worked my whole life to be a professional dancer, and I experienced it for a brief time, and then a knee injury took me away, and it took me a while to overcome this feeling, this belief that I failed. But really what was true, and I really believe this now, is that I didn't fail. That was actually exactly what I needed to change and learn the lessons I would never learn in comfort to become the person I was meant to be and do what I was meant to do, which is to serve and be a part of the dance community in this different way. And I still get to dance, so the things I missed were returned to me. But still, it was hard to not label that as a failure in my life and then fear that outcome or that feeling coming up for me again so much to the point where I started looking for the perfect path that would then provide just pure success forever, pure success so I don't have to feel the way I felt in the past again. And that can lead to overthinking, being perfectionistic, waiting to just start something, not being willing to start messy or be willing to feel uncomfortable again. And that's where that healing work is so important, and looking at Why do you have a fear of failure? Why are you staying stagnant in different ways or avoiding the things you need to do to have the kind of life you want to have? So I do hope that really speaks to you, like not only just everything that I said, but especially that point I mentioned of failure and success are actually the same road. So it's best if you just keep moving quickly through it instead of waiting to get off the failure path and on the perfect success path. Nope, friend, they're the same one, so just keep on moving. Hey there, isn't it true that as dancers, we spend so much time and energy training our bodies, but if we don't train our minds for success, which let's face it, dancers are not taught how to do, it's our mental struggles and limitations that can really hold us back from fulfilling our potential in dance. So if you're noticing that you're not quite either having the experience in dance that you want to have or dancing at the level you want, and you're feeling like it's your mind that's holding you back, I want to invite you to join the Confident Dancer Collective. In this uniquely designed group coaching program that is truly one of a kind, you will learn incredibly powerful psychological principles and techniques to help you improve at a speed and in ways that you might not have thought were possible. Learn to perform your personal best consistently by harnessing the power of your mind and develop a healthy and authentically confident mindset that helps you to feel good in your own skin while you dance. So if you really want to learn these mental tools to help you get to your personal best level as a dancer, whether you are a professional dancer or a passionate recreational dancer, a ballet dancer or a Scottish Highland dancer, yes, I've worked with them all, this program is for you. If you get your application in now, you will not only be one of the first to be accepted whenever enrollment officially opens, but you will also get an early bird bonus of a free mindset coaching session with me individually if you enroll before September 29th. So get in on that generous bonus offer, and I can't wait to see you in the program. Enjoy the rest of the video. The next thing is something I got from a mentor I worked with several years ago, which is that it is so important to not personalize your failures and let it mean something about you. That's going to paralyze you. Why not personalize your successes and depersonalize your failures? Like, oh, yep, I just did that. Treat a failure as something you just did, something you just experienced, and be like, okay, that happened, accept it, learn from it, move forward. And anytime something good happens or you get a result that you want, so often what happens is we personalize our failures and we depersonalize our successes. We think, oh, that was a fluke. That great thing happened, but waiting for the other shoe to drop, I'll probably fail again, or blah, blah, blah. And since we personalize our failure, we think the failure is who we really are. The failure is proof that we're really incompetent, we're not special, we're not as good as other people, whatever. But the truth is, you get to personalize or depersonalize whatever the heck you want. And so why not personalize your successes? Because research even shows there is power in actually overestimating yourself. The people who do, yeah, you might have humbling moments where you're like, okay, I can't be entitled. I can't think I'm too much better than other people. But when I mean overestimating yourself, I mean assuming you can do more than you think you can. There's a lot of power to that because it gives you the vision, the motivation, it reveals the action path to go forward towards that result instead of always underestimating yourself or letting your failures be what defines who you are rather than letting your successes define more of who you are. Like, look, I did do that. Give yourself credit for it. I was able to achieve this. Give yourself credit for it. And to balance that out, I do personally like to live by the practice of, I do personally have this belief that none of us are self-made people. I really do believe in having gratitude for the forces outside of ourselves that got us to where we are. Just for the sake of perspective and gratitude, there are so many benefits to that, I do believe. I think it leads to healthy humility, but at the same time, don't let that go to a toxic level where you're like, oh, all these things happen for me just because it happened. It's a fluke. No, you did participate in the result, so own it and let that confidence you get from that evidence fuel your next success going forward. The next point on failure is that sometimes failure reveals to you something that is actually more worthy of your desire than the thing you initially wanted. I really have found so much beauty in this point, you guys. Like, again, when I felt like I failed because my knee injury took me away from being in a company full time, I really felt like I failed. But what it ended up revealing to me is a path that I never knew I could want. I didn't even know it was a legit thing. It never occurred to me. My life was so focused on make this ballet thing work. I had such beautiful times come from that, but it also started to limit me. I wasn't discovering these other things I could want because I was so zeroed in on it has to be ballet, my ballet journey has to look this way. And what my failure, which again, I don't actually believe it was failure now, but at the time it did feel like it. And what that experience taught me is it gave me something better to want. It opened me up to desiring a path that is actually way more aligned for me and way more purposeful and big than the life I had envisioned for myself before. So I want to invite you to ask yourself, could your past failures have shown you something different to want? Or could the future failure you're afraid of, maybe it could reveal something to you that is better to want than the thing you wanted before? And no, I don't encourage you to use this point as, like, let's say an excuse or a reason to be like, oh, well, that didn't work. I didn't want it anyway. Like, if you still want the result that you didn't get the first or second or third time, keep going after it, But if you're feeling like there's a call in this to like change your heart, change your mind about what you want, it could be an invitation to a more beautiful path for you. The last point I'll share with you is that most everything we want is on the other side of our fears. And when we face that and embrace it, and even let our fear and our failures transform us, that is when we're able to, instead of living our lives trying to avoid discomfort, we embrace the discomfort that will help get us to where we want to go, so then we can actually get to where we want to go. So remember that facing your fears creates so much freedom on the other side of that process, and it requires a willingness to embrace discomfort instead of treating discomfort like a bad thing. Because then your comfort zone will become your prison. It will become this place where you feel stuck, and that will become uncomfortable. So you get to face discomfort that leads to freedom, or you get to face discomfort that does not feel freeing. And it's your choice which one you want to choose. So dancers, I want to commend you and say, if you've been experiencing something that feels like failure or the fear of failure, I want to just say I have the benefit of the doubt that you've been courageous. And I want you to give yourself a pat on the back for that. I want to invite you to have grace for yourself and realize that your failures, A, it's all in how you frame it. B, I don't believe it means anything bad about you. It's a learning opportunity. It can happen for you and not to you. You can make it work for you. And so I want to just invite you to release any shame you've had around not achieving certain things you want, because that is a part of the human experience that I promise you everyone can relate to. So it doesn't make you uniquely flawed. So please release the fear or release the shame that you might have been holding around that. And you'll really be able to step into the fears you've been experiencing around that. So I believe in you. I want to remind you that you have permission to believe in you, and reach out if you want any support in this process. That's it. I hope to see you in next week's video, and take care. Bye. Encourage. I love that encourage has courage in the word. Sometimes I have little light bulb moments while I film these videos, so